Hello, romantics. I'm Sarah Gomez, author, romance lover, and host. You're listening to Romancing the Story, a podcast centered around writing, reading, and story structure, all with a twist of romance. We're at episode 90, and on today's episode, I speak with the dynamic duo of Juicy Details Romance Editing on setting up indies for success, the good edits, and the horror stories, including AI, and why romance can change the world. The Juicy Details editing team of Monica and Maria is meticulous and thoughtful about every piece of writing that authors entrust to them. They take a lot of pride in their work and hold the same belief that resonates so deeply with many of us: that romance has the power to make the world a better place. And when I say they take romance very seriously, there's no playing around. They read voraciously. Maria even called out 250 to 300 books a year that is outside of editing services. So trust and believe that they know their romance stuff. Just as a full disclaimer, this episode was originally recorded in December of 2024. I guess you could say I took the traditional publishing route on this episode, as in it took me over a year to get it out and publish. If I'm being very honest, I waited for this one because it is by far one of my best episodes, and I wanted to be in a better headspace to release it. If you need a little lightness in your life, like so many of us, the chat is joyous, delightful, exciting, honest, and full of tips and tricks for any storyteller. It became more of just a general love session on why we enjoy romance so much and what these stories mean to us. I had such a great time chatting with Maria and Monica that the episode went extra long, and we ended up with 2 different episodes. This original interview and a little behind-the-scenes chat that will also be available. Also, during our discussion about suggested word usage, I mentioned an author who's previously been on the podcast, and they chatted in detail about the loaded use of the word exotic as an identifier. The author is Khushi Saha, and if you'd like to hear more about her experience as a Southeast Asian woman and interracial romance, highly recommend episode 30. Links to connect to Juicy Details Romance Editing, as well as other media mentions, will be listed in the episode description. I do use some Amazon affiliate links, so if you buy through the link, it helps the podcast and is always appreciated. With that said, let's jump right in. Welcome the dream team of Juicy Details Romance Editing with Maria and Monica. Yay! So, ladies, I'm so excited to have you. I know we've chatted a little bit about this back and forth, and that, romance genre is such a piece of our hearts. I know yours as well. Mm-hmm. So, in case listeners don't know, can you tell them a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, definitely. So, Juicy Details Romance Editing is me, Maria, my sister, Monica, and my best friend, Melissa, who's not here on the podcast today. And we started this editing business that focuses specifically on romance a little more than a year ago now. And we offer lots of different kinds of editing, which we'll get into a little bit later here as we get into the nitty gritty of, lots of people. When they think of an editor, they think of someone who's doing commas and, quotation marks. And like that is an important part of editing, but there's a lot more. There's a lot more to it. So we'll get into that. We'll get into some of those nitty gritties later.
I love that you mentioned that, though, just real quickly, because I had to explain that to my kiddo, who's just started college. And she was just like, well, I have Grammarly for that. I'm like, girl, no.
Yeah.
Not the same.
Don't get me started.
I know. I'm just like, don't even.
Yeah.
Don't even.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, Microsoft Word is helpful, but it's like you start with your spell check, and then you start getting into the Chicago Manual of Style, and then you start looking things up on the Oxford English Dictionary, and then you're looking at timelines, and then you're deep into Wikipedia. You don't know where it's going to take you.
I know. It's a whole rabbit hole. I'm so sorry for interrupting you. Please continue.
Yeah, so we specifically focus on indie romance, lots of self-published romance authors, because we think that the most innovative and interesting romance that's being published right now is being published indie. That trad pub is not necessarily taking a lot of risks in the romance genre. It's not really pushing the envelope in a way that when you're the one who's publishing your book and there's no one there to say, you can't include that representation. Oh, this kind of love story is not going to sell. You don't have to jump through any hoops. So the barriers to entry are a lot lower, and that means lots more different kinds of people can tell the love stories that they see themselves and the people that they love in. And so that is where we wanted to focus our energies, because we want indie published books to be as high quality entering the marketplace as anything that's coming out of the big 5 publishers.
That's something actually I talked about. It was, oh goodness, it was on way back in the podcast with Shayla Raquel when she's a marketing guru, and she was saying that indie romance in particular is kind of leading the charge with that. But the problem is they're taking chances, but the trad publishers don't necessarily take the chances until the indies are successful. Yes. Then they see like, oh, there's a pattern here. Go figure.
And then they pick up the books that don't need any work, that the indie publishers have already paid their own editors to do, that they've already done the marketing legwork on, that they've built an audience for, and they capitalize on the success that these indie authors are having. And I mean, good for the authors getting these publishing deals, right. But TradPub is not investing in new indie authors,
no,
the way that they should be. So.
Exactly. No, that's why my heart is so hard with the indies as well. My heart is all the way with the indies, because they're the ones who are being innovative. And before all you ladies kind of like joined forces, as it were, right, in your editing services, how did the idea for Juicy Details Romance come about? And have any of you had previous editing experience before joining the team?
The idea sparked a few years ago when I was working with one of my good friends. And she was looking to get a certificate of some kind because she had some AmeriCorps money, like educational stipend money that she needed to spend before it expired. So she was looking into like, what can I spend this $5,000 on? I'm not going to go to grad school. So she pulled up all of these different certificates that were available to her to take. And one of them was an editing certificate. And I was like, that's like a job people could have. Like, obviously I knew that people could be editors, but it never occurred to me that I could be an editor, that you could like learn how to do that. So anyway, I just started kicking that idea around. And then, I was talking to Melissa about it. She's my best friend. So we're talking about stuff all the time. And she was like, well, I mean, I could help with especially like all the business side of things, like getting the business started, because she had a little bit of like work experience. Because my hesitation was that I didn't want to run my own business. I didn't want to deal with taxes. I didn't want that. And she was like, no, I promise I'll help you. It'll be fine. We can do this. And then we started talking to Monica, and Monica was like, oh, well, I could be an editor. That sounds great. I'm really good at words. I'm good at, all of that.
I'm already editing all these books in my head anyway.
Right?
I might as well get paid to do it.
And I mean, it is kind of that like wish fulfillment thing of like, how can I get paid to read books?
Very much.
Right?
Yes.
Like my longest term hobby that I've had for my life is reading books. I've been reading books voraciously for as long as I can remember. So like, what if I could get paid to read books and make them better? That was part of it. And so then it was just like a series of conversations, pretty casual conversations that we had over like a 6-month period where we're like, could we like do this? Could we turn this into a real business? Can we make this happen in the world? And the more research we did and the more we talked about it, the more the answer was yes, somehow. We can do this. We can. So then we started getting kind of serious about it. We joined the EFA, the Editorial Freelancers Association, and started taking some editing classes that they offer and attending, webinars and doing all of the like self-education that we could, so that we felt ready. And then once we felt a little tiny bit ready, we took on our first client and sort of haven't looked back from there. So you want to talk about editing experience?
Yeah, I mean, I know a formal editing experience. I've been editing people's stuff ad hoc my whole life, basically. Like Maria said, relationship with books and the written word. And I truly am the biggest nerd.
Enormous
nerd.
Word nerd.
Like, I gave my 3rd grade teacher a lecture about plagiarism because one of her like classroom punishments was making people copy pages out of the dictionary. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's against the law because that's plagiarism.
So I'm hearing you were born to be an editor, basically. Like you were just from the beginning.
It's a miracle it took us this long. Is the real thing. Yeah. And similarly, like I didn't have any formal editing training, but a lot of my job, when we were talking about this, was writing and editing all kinds of things. I worked for a nonprofit that didn't have enough staff. So, writing and editing grant proposals, writing and editing one-pagers for funders, writing and editing social media, like just anything and everything that you need to talk about a project. And then was like, oh, I actually love editing things. I really like cutting. So I think it was like an intuitive beginning for us. But certainly we take a lot of editing classes and read a lot of editing books. And the more we meet other editors, the more we find that that's actually a pretty common origin story. There's a lot of editors that don't have formal training, that don't have certificates, that didn't go to college for this, that are out there doing fantastic work in the world. So it helps a little bit with that imposter syndrome to know that we're like, this is not a unique story in the world of freelance editors.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I love talking so much too to some of the editors. To be honest, a big portion of my audience is actually editors too, which surprised me. And I was just like, really? And they were like, yeah, because you're talking about all these really interesting topics that we want to edit. And so that way we know how to approach it. And I was just like, wow, like that really opened my eyes and to just how many different types of editors there really are.
Yes.
So like you mentioned line editing. So like, okay, can you give us a brief overview of like, what are each of your strengths? Not like all the editing in the world. Oh my goodness. But like the strengths that like all of you and your team possess.
So just really quickly giving people a sense of what we consider to be sort of the 3 buckets of genre fiction editing, which is what we edit. Very different if you're talking like scientific papers, it's different ballgame. But when you're talking genre fiction, these are the buckets that editing tends to fall into. So first, at the highest level, like zoomed out on the earth, is developmental editing. So that's looking at the story as a whole. That's looking at major plot holes. That's looking at character development. In a romance, that looks like the romantic arc that the main characters go through on their journey to their happily ever after. It looks like a convincing setting. Just like those really big pieces that when they go wrong really affect like reader enjoyment of a project. If you have a flat character who doesn't really grow or change or learn anything in a romance novel, readers don't like that. So developmental editing is about identifying and then correcting those things using what's already in the manuscript. And then zooming in a little bit, so like looking at North America. I love a metaphor. Love a metaphor. So that's line editing. So that's working at the sentence and paragraph level. So it's a little more technical than developmental. As you go like closer in, things become a little bit more clear cut, a little bit less kind of like fuzzy and artistic. So line editing is all about eliminating repetition, unnecessary things, phrases or words that are cliches or that water down the meaning of what you're trying to say, or that you need to like rearrange how events happen to make a scene flow a little bit better. It's like, oh, well, this word like technically works, but the connotation I think isn't quite what you mean. Have you considered these 3 alternative words? Like that kind of level. It's about the musicality of writing. It's about the like authorial voice and maintaining that in an edit, and trying to distill it down, distilling text down into like what it really means and getting rid of everything that kind of gets in the way of that.
Yeah.
And then even more microcosm, looking at like Washington State, which is where we're located, is copy editing, which is really about finding and correcting errors. So that's like, you know, a word that you've used that isn't at all correct. Not just like, you know, the connotation isn't quite there. Like, no, this does not mean what you think it means. This is the word that you were thinking of.
Yeah. So often what I find is that authors choose a word that sounds very similar to the word that they mean. So often it's like, okay, that's not the word. Let me think about what word they were trying to get to.
Yeah. And it's amazing how often we're like, oh, they meant this. Like it's obvious what word they were trying to get to and just didn't quite get there.
Yeah.
And it's things like making sure that quotation marks are in the right spot, that commas are correct, which let me tell you, commas are so hard.
She's not the copy editor. I mean, we're working on it, but like I'm the copy editor.
Developing my copy skills. I can crush a copy edit except for the commas. It's so hard. It's so much more complicated than everyone thinks. Anyway.
And there's a bit of art to it too.
There is.
So the other thing about copy editing is part of copy editing is fact checking. So like this is particularly true for contemporary and historical fiction, like not for, you know, romantasy and things like that, but like, does the place that you're talking about exist? If you're grounding your story, you know, like we had one where it was like, this opera was being shown at this theater in this year in this town. And I was like, nope.
No, it wasn't. Here's what was actually happening.
Yeah. Or I think this is very much the case in historical is like, was that word in use at the time of your book?
I know. She's like such a rabbit hole person doing all the research. So if it hasn't been made clear yet, I do more of the developmental and she does the copy and we kind of meet in the middle with line editing. Yeah. We both like that middle ground and I like the big picture and Monica's very granular.
Yeah.
Listen, Monica's doing the Lord's work, though, because I literally had my friend who wrote historical just pipe up out of nowhere because we were at a writing retreat and she's also an editor. And she says, when was underwear invented? So it's like the important things you don't think about in historical fans.
And it depends on what kind of underwear you're talking about.
Exactly.
Are we talking bloomers? Are we talking pantaloons? Are we talking like modern panties? Where is that line?
Smalls? Like...
Exactly. Like we went in such a deep dive for like hours talking about this. We were so invested. So like, Monica, you were doing really important work. So I don't get tripped up thinking about it because I will know that answer.
Remember the huge nerd of it? She loves it. She loves it.
Nice. Very nice. And
was bonkers a word in 1811? Turns out no. 1945 was the first use of bonkers.
And now we know. So, and you ladies, like you had kind of mentioned before, you kind of focus on indie romance. Do you also do any other genres, or why do you focus specifically on romance?
We specifically focus on romance for a couple of reasons. One, we did a count a while back of how many romance books we have collectively read, and it is over 2,000. And we feel like we're pretty expert.
We're experts in the genre.
What makes romance work. We're not really super interested in editing other stuff. And I think the main reason this is, we feel very strongly that romance novels have the potential to make the world better in a number of ways. First of all, I think romance novels can teach people what healthy relationships should look like and what being loved for who you are, regardless of who you are, can do and can be like. I think that so many people don't see themselves represented in that way outside of the indie romance. And that's why there are so many indie romances, I think, is because so many people have felt like they don't see themselves represented in the media they're consuming, and they want...
I can live life like this is okay. Yeah.
It's and what if everybody could have that feeling instilled in them?
Yes.
To move through the world believing that they are worthy of a happy ending.
Like,
yeah, that's powerful.
No matter what.
Yeah. World changing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'd have a whole lot less a-holes in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that that's a great reason. And I'm so glad that you guys kind of honed in on a genre too, because it feels like you are experts in it, like you were saying. So, and I always I think that's really fun when you have an editor's just like, you know what? I'm not great at this thing. Instead of trying to do it all, you focus on the one thing that you're really passionate about.
Love that they deserve. I mean, how can that not increase our empathy for other people? If we can inhabit their lives and their love, even briefly, I think there's so much potential for indie romance to make everyone's lives better. That's why we edit romance.
That's something I have run across quite a bit, especially with authors, saying I did not see anybody who resembled my story or even close to my experience in these books. So I knew I had to write. So
yeah, especially in the context of you get to have a happily ever after. This is your life and you get to have a happily ever after. It's anti-kill your gaze. It's let your gaze live happily ever after, right? We're not, that's what romance is all about.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love, we do love that, the happily ever after that you get what? I can have it all. What? I can live life like this is okay. Yeah.
It's and what if everybody could have that feeling instilled in them?
Yes.
To move through the world believing that they are worthy of a happy ending.
Yeah, that's powerful.
No matter what.
Yeah.
World changing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'd have a whole lot less a-holes in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that that's a great reason. And I'm so glad that you guys kind of honed in on a genre too, because it feels like you are experts in it, like you were saying.
Yeah. When the pandemic started, I was reading 40% romance maybe, and the rest fantasy. Which had been my bread and butter for a long time. And I was just well, guess fantasy is over. Truly, I tried to pick up a book I was so excited about. And I was it's hard here. I can't do it. I can't. And basically didn't look back. And now I read between 250 and 300 romance novels a year.
Now, do you get paid though for all those? Be honest.
No, I don't count the ones I get paid for.
Yeah, I know.
If I edit it, it doesn't go on my.
These are just on off time.
I'm not tracking that. Yeah, no, that's just my, as I said, lifelong hobby. It's just that I used to read other things, and now I only read romance, and I'm never going to go back.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that. I majority of mine is romance nowadays, so I'm very happy.
I don't judge people that read more diversely than that, but I am deeply uninterested in editing a book I wouldn't read in my spare time.
Well, and that's just honest. I mean, I appreciate that as someone, if you go to an editor and they're not really invested, you can tell. I mean, you can 100%.
Oh yeah, you definitely can.
That, and I've known several editors who've turned people away because they're just like, this isn't really right for me. I just don't feel like I could really bring this out, this story to the best of its ability.
Yes, good editors say no.
Yeah. I mean, we just got an inquiry yesterday for someone who wanted a middle grade YA fantasy novel edited, and I was like,
no, man,
we're not your girls.
Sorry.
I will help you find a good editor, but like, we're not it.
Which, I mean, it's not to say that we probably couldn't do it and do a good job.
Right. But
oh, yeah.
There are so many indie romances out there that need an editor that we don't want to take that editing slot away from those indie authors that we love so much.
Of course, like, because I was mentioning earlier, I've spoken to a couple of different types of editors. And I know that there, like, we were kind of talking about a lot of types of editing available for various skill sets. So, and we kind of talked about each of the different types of editing, right? So when you're bringing a book to its full potential, you're trying to, I know that's like a tagline, right? You guys have elevating your book to its full potential. So like how do you guys work like together, like in tandem for that to happen? Like, is it one at a time, or like, how does that work with each skill set?
It depends on the project. I mean, in my editing dreams, every author would come to us and say, I need developmental editing, line editing, and copy editing. And we would do it like one phase at a time, essentially, and take it from draft all the way to published. That's not realistic to expect most indie authors to be able to do that, in part because it's expensive. In another part because it's time consuming to do all of those sort of stages of editing. But as I said, that would be my dream. So really, what we our sort of bread and butter these days, it seems to be the line and copy combo that we usually do at the same time, like in one editing block, basically. And depending on what other projects we have going on, one of us will take the line and one of us will take the copy edit. So we'll both go through the manuscript, sort of one after the other, staggered. Sometimes we're both working on the manuscript, but one of us is like 5 or 10 pages ahead of the other and going through, just so that there's more than one person's eyes, because inevitably one of us catches something that the other one missed on that first pass. So that's definitely one of the strengths that we have as a business, that it's more than one editor. And we have different strengths that we're bringing to the table and that we're seeing. So even on a copy edit, depending on the project, sometimes we'll have the second person do like a quick pass just to see if they noticed anything, quick read through. But like if we're doing a full package, all 3 levels of editing, I'll do the developmental edit, Monica will do the line edit, and then I will follow up with the copy edit, so that we're like alternating perspectives, because best practices are to have different editors do different kinds of editing, which is another sort of barrier to entry for indie authors, because you have to not just find one editor, you have to find at least 2 editors if you're going to do sort of the whole thing. There are lots of romance authors who only do developmental editing. There are lots of romance editors who only do developmental. They only do sort of story level work, because that's what they are really good at and really passionate about. And if you want to work with them, that's great. But then you still have to find a line and or copy editor after that. So we like the added convenience of being able to have 2 different editors work on the project without the author having to find another editor, do another invoice, figure out more logistics. Like we do the multi-editor thing in-house, so that's one less thing that indie authors can have on their plate, because those plates are full.
Yes.
For real.
Yes. I always call indie authors like the one-stop shop. Basically, they do it all. Like, bless them, bless
Yes,
all of them. Sometimes, and I've heard this, like, especially talking to traditional authors versus like indie authors, like you said, the traditional, a lot of times will go through multiple rounds of those edits and through those editors. But if you get two very different editors who don't necessarily talk to each other or don't know each other, those edits can look wildly different.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
like, it is mind blowing to me. Some people I've talked to who told me things. So I'm just like, oh. But I feel like that's such a strength that I like when I first saw your business, I'm just like, oh my God, it's like you got a whole team working on your manuscript.
Yeah.
So who know each other's strengths, know what they're looking for, and like don't kind of like run over each other, I'm sure. Like, or you've ironed all those kinks out. So you're just like, we know
we're not territorial at all.
In the rare moments when things are really slow, sometimes we literally edit together. Like we read the manuscript out loud and like edit as we go together, which is super fun. And also
it's so time consuming.
Incredibly inefficient.
Yeah.
So like we can't do that on a regular basis.
No, but every once in a while as a little treat.
Oftentimes what happens is like Maria will say, well, I think we should do it this way. And I'll say, I think we should do it this way. And what we do is whatever makes the fewest changes. Goal always is how do we fulfill the author's vision with the fewest number of changes? Like, how do we make this as good as possible while leaving as much as possible intact?
That is such a great like call out, because that's something I thought is super important. Like, how do you balance maintaining the author's voice with making necessary edits?
It's a real art. Line editing is a real art. So that doesn't mean that we're not recommending that some like words in particular go away. Unnecessary modifiers, anything that like weakens, waters down the point that the authors are trying to make. We're always trying to think of, and like, for example, when we are replacing a word, when we're like, well, this word isn't quite right. Rather than picking a word that we want to replace it with, we will make a comment and be like, this is not like, I don't think this is getting quite to the heart of what you're trying to say right now, given what's around it. Have you considered one or two or three other options where we have like thesaurist? We've got that Merriam-Webster dictionary thesaurus up all the time when we're editing. So we do just make some changes in the documents, but a lot of our changes are like, here's a couple options you might want to go with so that it stays as like, even the changes that we're making are still like the author's choice, which direction they want to go and which feels more authentic to them and their characters in the moment.
I love that though, because then that preserves really what they were going for.
Yeah. So. I know some editors will send back documents that are basically like fixed, that authors can just like, they'll send them a copy where all of the track changes are gone and it's just the edited copy.
A clean manuscript.
Like a clean manuscript back. Like, and I mean, if that's how editors work, that's totally fine as long as the authors know that that's, but like, we wouldn't be able to send back a clean manuscript because that's not how we edit. Like, we're much more collaborative with authors, and it's much more like, here are some suggestions, here's a direction you might want to go whenever possible.
Yes. Yeah. And I think even with copy editing, there are rules for commas, but like commas are also subjective to some degree. And so, for example, like when we're talking with an author, one of the questions I'm asking now is, do you want me to track changes with commas, or do you want me to just change the commas so you don't have to review every change? And one of our authors is like, don't track changes with commas. Like, I don't want to just fix it. And like, I don't want to see it. And I'm like, great. And another author is like, no, I want to track all those commas. Yeah. And I'm like, cool. Because we want authors to maintain as much control as they want over the changes that are being made to their manuscript.
Yeah. And like I said before, like, we're not territorial with each other. We're also not territorial with authors. If an author gets our edit back and doesn't accept any change that we made, I mean, they're probably going to find a different editor later, but like, I'm not going to be like upset. Like, that's their choice. If they like any degree of not accepting our edits is not like a personal attack for us. Like, please, if you don't like the way we change something, unchange it.
Yeah.
No problem.
Not our book.
Yeah, it's your book. Another piece of the puzzle for us is that we really prefer to have a like pre-edit chat, like a video chat, to meet authors and ask them about their vision and like get a sense of what they want and what they're looking for, so that we can bring that in, like the spirit of that into our edit.
That was another question I had for you ladies as well, that because back in the day, I actually used to be the president of a critique group. And that was something that was very helpful for a lot of the editors in the room, and is personally for me of what I was looking for, when I could talk to authors and they would present their scene or a piece of their writing and say, here's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how do you help writers find the ideal editing package that works for their story?
I think this is one of the, I mean, A, the chat, and B, I think this is why a sample edit is so important.
Yes.
Because the sample edit is not just for the writer to get a sense of your editing. It's also, as an editor, a chance for us to understand where your manuscript is at. Because it happens occasionally that an author comes to us and says, I want a copy edit. And we start and we say, maybe consider a line edit. Like, we have this happen with an author, say, hey, you know, I've had a line edit. I just need a copy edit. We're like, great. Like, give us the manuscript. We get like 3 pages in and I'm like, no.
And I hadn't been part of that original email. Monica did that one. And I was like, did you say this has been line edited? Because I can see zero evidence that this manuscript has been line edited.
Yeah. So what we did, because we could have just gone forward with doing a copy edit, what I did was I did 2 sample pages for the author. And I said, okay, here's a page just doing the copy edit that you've requested. What I will tell you is, based on your manuscript, we strongly recommend that you do both a line and copy edit. Here's a sample of what that would look like. I understand that you've already paid for a line edit. I understand that this is not probably what you want to hear right now, honestly. And if you choose to just proceed with a copy edit, that is totally fine. Because, like, I understand, like, I wouldn't want to have to pay twice for some, you know, like, I get it. And so, you know, I sent the email back to her with the 2 edits. And I said, just let us know what you want to do, like, no pressure at all. And she was like, oh my God, please do a line and copy edit and help me figure out how to give this other editor feedback. Okay.
We edited that manuscript and she said, okay, here's my projection for the next 2 years of all the things I'm going to publish that I want you guys to copy, to line and copy edit.
I mean, I think that's one of the hard things, both as an indie author and as an editor working with indie authors, is that there are, unfortunately, editors out there who are not doing a very good job. Like,
they're the back alley editors, right? That you just see in trench coats just hanging out. Like,
so hard. It's so hard. And I think it's so hard for authors to figure out how to find a good editor. But, like, we've heard some real horror stories about authors' editing experiences too. And, you know, one of the things that we're really passionate about, in addition to editing, is like supporting indie authors. Like, our Instagram, our goal, like, on one level, sure, it's a marketing tool, but ultimately, part of what we're trying to do is arm indie authors with the information that they need to be successful. Because we can't edit all the indie romance books. Like, we can't. But we want every indie romance author to be able to find the services they need and have the information that they need to be successful and to have the best product possible, because we think it's important. And so I mean, we've done multiple posts about like, here's what you should look for in an editor. Here are questions to ask an editor. Here are the different kinds of editing. Like, because like we want people to have good experiences. We don't want anyone to experience what some of the authors we work with have experienced, frankly.
Who does the Instagram? Kudos to y'all.
We all make posts for like we all create content, and then Monica manages the actual responding and DMing and all of that kind of thing.
Well,
it's very collaborative too.
It is awesome because I've saved so many of those posts because I'm not in my editing era. I'm not in my editing era yet, but right. I'm saving it. I'm saving it for when I am. And I'm such a target. I'm not going to I'll cut this out probably. I don't want to read myself here, but I'm such a target because I don't know what I'm looking for. Yeah. I have no clue as editing is not my strength. Like I can verbal vomit basically on the page, but that's about it. Like I don't have that skill set. And it's one of those things of like, I don't even know what I'm looking for. I know I need it. Yes. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah. Yes. So we have a social media calendar we put together, and every single week there's something around like editing education, like the types of editing. This is what they do. This is what they're about. This is why you might need them. Like we're constantly pushing that message out so that authors have information. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, and when you do the sample edit, do you do a video call with the author beforehand or after that or any?
Usually before.
But before to understand. Okay. Just to understand kind of where they are. Sometimes. Okay. Cause that's like, I know that there are several usually rounds of edits and things like that, but I'm just like, before that, I'm just like, but what else do I need? Like, I just know it's like a tiered step. It's not like a start to finish kind of thing. Right. There's like multiple like little stair stepping to that.
It's funny because I think, that's one of sort of the maximums of social media marketing, right? Is like repetition is key.
Yes.
But as like the person who's creating the stuff, I'm like, we've already talked about this.
I know. Said this. I know. I do the same thing. I work in marketing. I work in marketing my 9 to 5. Oh my God, Monica, you wouldn't believe like just the same thing. I'm saying the same thing over and over and over, like 10 different times.
Yes, in 20 different ways. Yeah, no, it's So it's helpful to have you reiterate that, yes, repetition
just helps. Well, and like there's always some little nugget in there. Like for some reason, that's something I've talked to other people about too. It's like you can say things in like 5 different ways, but then you say it in one specific way and it clicks. Yep. It finally clicks for you. And you're just like, oh, I get it. Either it's a visual or maybe something just a way something is phrased, just slightly different to where.
Or it's the day.
Yeah, it's the day. My brain's actually working today.
Finally like in the spot to hear that.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe there's a really good metaphor, Maria, to it. There's that one really good metaphor that I'm just like, oh my God, it's the world. It's North America. It's Washington. I got it. Yes. It's all clicking finally. So
my work here is done. I'm going to retire.
I know, exactly.
Well, never. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm never going to retire from editing. I'll be editing in my grave.
Seriously.
There you go. On usually the manuscript, how long does it usually take you to edit a manuscript? Would you say average?
It's hard. I mean, we do have some numbers that I can say. I'll first of all say, thinking about a 300-page manuscript, which pages vary. We actually do everything in words, but that's not as easy for people to understand, right? Yeah. Unless you're authors. So like that like 300 page, that like 100 to 120,000 word like length manuscript for a copy edit, just a copy edit, that really granular one, somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks is what we like to give to make sure we have time to get through the whole thing.
At least twice. Usually twice. Well, twice by me and once by her.
Just to make sure. But like a manuscript critique, which is a kind of developmental edit. So that's like really big picture. That is much more of like a single read through, maybe a second read through, no notes in the actual manuscript. And then like a 5 to 10 page like document that's like, here are the strong points. Here are the weak points. Here's some suggestions. These are your first steps. Here's some recommended reading or resources to help you. So it's like a jump start. It's our most affordable package for developmental editing, but it's a lot less detailed. Something like that for that long of a book is more like 2 to 4 weeks, depending on what else we've going on. And then a full line and copy for something that long is in the like 6 to 8 week window. And in part, that's because we're never or rarely just working on one project. So I could have a manuscript critique and a full developmental edit and a line and copy that I'm working on at the same time. So like making sure that we're not overextending.
Yeah.
So we have a little like Excel based calendar that we made where we can block out the reasonable amounts of projects, because we never want to promise an author a manuscript back and then not be able to deliver on a timeline.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we try to always overestimate how long it's going to take.
Very transparent about when we can start something and when we intend to finish it, and then we finish it when we say we're going to.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think this is also part of the sample edit process too, is, if I have a 5-page sample, then I have a sense of how much work a copy edit is going to be, or a line edit, because different people have different levels of skill when it comes to writing. And that's just like real life.
Yeah.
And so, something that is going to require more copy editing is going to take a little longer. That's just,
that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I've heard that from authors, actually. Like, I know that I've heard some authors say, like, their first book out was rough, but they've learned to self-edit. They've kind of know what to expect now and kind of, like, think about that by the time, by the right time they're writing your 10th book. So,
yeah. And not only do we have an education sort of forward Instagram, but we're education focused editors as well. So even when we're doing a simple copy edit on something, we're still like sending back feedback that's like, this is something that we're noticing in your writing. Like, here are some things that are like easy fixes for you to do in the future that like we corrected this a bunch of times. Here's the correct like way to do it so that you can learn and like build that in. We're constantly like giving those kinds of resources, giving that kind of specialized feedback to all of our authors, regardless of what kind of editing services they're using.
And sending like, here's an article you might want to read about, shifting from passive to active voice, or whatever.
Whatever the big sort of issues that they're working on. And the other thing that's important too is like, because we work with different like writers who come to us with different skill levels, we don't take like new authors who have a little bit rougher work and expect them like correct it to a really, really highly skilled level. Like, that's too overwhelming, right? And to be frank, it eliminates their authorial voice to do it in that many steps. But when we have authors that keep coming back to us and their writing gets better, then when we edit their better manuscript, we can keep like pushing them, like constantly pushing their writing skill up with every manuscript so that they are becoming stronger and stronger writers.
So how important is diversity and representation in romance books? And how do you approach this in your editing work?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit in terms of like how we think romance can change the world, is by, I think representation, being able to see yourself in a romance is so critical. And I think it's even more critical for people who are experiencing the effects of, systems of oppression, like to be able to find joy, to be able to find love, to be able to see their stories of joy and love, not just stories of pain and suffering, which so often is the dominant narrative. I think a couple of things, in addition to the discount, we work really hard to try to amplify books by queer authors and authors of color on our Instagram. Like, that's something very conscious. We try to read diversely, like very consciously. We also, in our editing, are editing for conscious language, and trying to do, like if we see, like an example I can think of in the last 6 months is like someone describing minor character as exotic looking. And us like saying, hey, like actually that's like, here are the reasons why this is problematic. Here's a link to an article that you can read about like why that's not a term we use to talk about people. And the author was like, oh my God, thank you. Like
I had no idea.
I had no idea. Like, and so like those are the things that we're trying to do. I think the other thing we also is we've donated to a couple of different auctions, and also in those donations, like trying to be conscious about like supporting those communities that have been systematically marginalized, just trying to amplify the voices of indie authors of color in particular, editing with an equity lens, as Maria said when we were talking about this before.
Yeah,
and
particularly an equity lens when we're editing books written by straight white people.
Yeah.
Like making sure, there is less of an equity lens requirement when we're editing books written by marginalized authors. Right. Although we never, put the lens away.
Yeah. No. So yeah, I think those are some of the things that we're doing as well.
Well, and I love that you're so passionate about it, and that those are important things to know. I've found that, that I have been educated on things that I did not know about by talking about like you said, the exotic comment. That was something like I would never say, but I heard that from also another author who is Southeast Asian. Yes, but that, and talking about disabilities and talking about like queer authors and things like that, like there's certain verbiage, there's certain like things that you have to be mindful of, and that like I may not know in particular. My kiddo's teaching me a lot about that too. She's a different ethnicity than we are. Right. So like I'm learning a lot.
And I mean, it helps that Monica has a master's in social work, and both of us have years of work experience in nonprofits and mental health and social services. And so, we got a lot of that training elsewhere, and so we're bringing that lens in a like very natural for us kind of way into the work of editing. So our clients benefit from that previous experience, that lived experience we're bringing into the story too.
I think that also helps us like in our giving feedback to authors in a way that's digestible too, and also like developing relationships, because I think like being able to communicate with people effectively in ways that are like kind and affirming, but also like real and honest, I think that can be a really tricky balance. And so I think that is something we do well also.
I was actually thinking about that right before you said it. I was just like, so there's a social work to editor pipeline there. Is what you're saying. Right. Like, because then you can talk not only to like help with the editing portion, but then you're just like, I can talk to authors about like, in a nice and gentle, non-judgmental way, but like something like you said, an affirming way that they may not, that they may need to hear, for the betterment of their work, obviously to make their story the best it can be. So
absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that's also helped me like with the not taking things personally too. Like, here's what I have to offer. Like, if it doesn't work for you, like that's fine.
Yes, you editors sometimes have very tough skins. I appreciate that, because then I know that I've like tried to do critiques before, and like when I was managing that, like I said, as a president of critique groups, and some people they get feisty, and even though they were nice about it. It was still like, it's okay. You don't have to take that. You don't have to receive that. It's okay if you don't want it. So it's so it is important to have that way to talk to people, like you said, give that feedback in a way that hopefully it's received and the way it was meant to. So
yeah, definitely.
Are there any genres or subgenres that you like as your team you don't work on, or varies depending on context? So like within romance, obviously. So
sure. We don't edit non-romance. There are a few subgenres that we have not been presented with the opportunity to edit that are a little bit like maybe context and case by case, like dark romance. There's some like dark romance themes. Like I in particular really struggle with mafia romance. It's just a personal thing with maybe the right author and the right story. You know, that would be part of that like pre-edit chat. That's as much for me as it is for the author to be like, okay, what kind of triggers do we have here? Like, just making sure that it's something I would feel confident and comfortable editing. Especially because in dark romance in particular, there are some like different conventions than sort of the rest of the romance genre. And that's not to say that I couldn't do that, but we're not necessarily like seeking that out, if that makes sense. And then on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, like religious romance, I don't think is anything, I mean, that we would seek out folks writing like really Christian Amish kind of romance. But I think that we're pretty clear in our branding and our marketing. Like, I don't think that those authors are necessarily going to pick us. Which isn't to say that we would say, no, we're not going to edit that.
No,
like
not at all.
It's very context and case by case for those. But we try to be as upfront as possible about the kind of people that we are and the kind of values that we hold and the kinds of romances that we've been reading that we're really excited about, the things that we're amplifying in like a trans-like kind of way. So,
which is not to say that there isn't plenty of dark romance. I think that vibes with our values. I think that that's
absolutely.
I think there are some that probably don't and some that do. And I think, you know, I think so much of it comes down to fit too. And I mean, I know for me, like on page sexual assault is a hard no. I'm not going to edit that, period, end of story. Like,
but in the right story, I could.
Right.
Like, that doesn't mean that Juicy Details couldn't take that story on. That's another sort of thing about being more than one of us. There are three of us. Like, we can work things out.
And consensual non-consent, I have no problem with.
Right.
So, you know, like it's also...
Can we have more primal chasing, please? Send us your primal chasing romances.
Oh my God.
We all read a lot of like kinky, like when I say dark romance, I do not mean like kinky, like, you know, crazy sex romance. I mean like
crime,
stalker,
murder,
crime. Although I have read some good stalker romances too. Truly.
Yes. I'm in the midst of one right now.
The line is wavy and it moves. So the short answer is no.
Although, I mean, the other like caveat to that is we're not interested in editing romance that features a main character who's active military or in law enforcement unless that book interrogates those systems.
You gotta know your line. So that's very important. So, and
we don't believe that we can actually be supporting queer and people of color and be like happily editing law enforcement romance at the same time.
That doesn't interrogate that.
That doesn't at least question and
those systems of power.
Yes, exactly. So
which, I mean, we kind of feel similarly about billionaire romances also.
I'm a known hater of the billionaires. So I'll do it, but there's got to be some groveling about it.
There's I gotta you really gotta work for that one.
You really gotta work for it. So it depends on how hard authors are willing to work with their characters.
So, and that was something actually I talked to with Brianna Bashedley from the Categorically Romance podcast. She said she doesn't read, which really surprised me. She said she didn't read romantic suspense because she was like, she's like, it just gets my heart rate up. And it's just like,
I'm the same way. Romantic suspense is not for me.
That's fair. That is
Marina's not here for the non-romance plot much.
Correct. Yeah.
Anything too intense. That's what I'm hearing. Like mafia.
I like it when there's
romance.
a bakery I like it when there's a bookstore. I
Cozy,
don't like it when
yes.
they're on the run and trying to bookstore. I
Cozy,
don't like it when
yes.
they're on the run and trying to survive. Unless it's fully like a survival romance, that's different.
Oh yeah, you add a little
Or if it's
chasing in
like,
there and you're down, right?
right, or a little like post-apocalypse, a little, like that's fine. It's weird.
There are no hard lines here.
Hard lines.
There you go. Like you said,
We've got
it's
some
very
soft
squiggly.
and wavy. But I mean, truly, the good news is by being authentically ourselves on social media, we are pruning that tree constantly, constantly pruning that tree.
Well, and I've started when people like query, also like that's starting to become like, you should check out our Instagram.
Absolutely. It's full of information about us,
Yes.
about the things we do.
All kinds of things.
Yes.
All kinds of amazing things. So,
That will help you understand if we're a good fit.
like you said, it is all about the fit. And that is something I have found. Like editors, like I've seen other authors go to editors and say, like, I don't like the way the story turned out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like the way it was edited. So they end up having to pay again. Like you ladies said, like that same experience to somebody else. That's why I think it is really important for authors, editors like y'all to know your strengths, and as well as the authors to know what they're looking for.
Yes. Yeah. And I think the other thing that is starting to become more of an issue that I think we are a little concerned about, particularly in terms of transparency, is I'm certainly seeing a proliferation in editor spaces of workshops and classes for how to use generative AI in your editing.
Ask any editor you're ever going to work with if they use AI. Ask them.
Yes, I have learned that. Yes, I did a whole AI episode, and that was something I was told that, like, by the lady. She said, always ask your editors and your cover artists if they use any type of AI. And that's an important thing to call out too, if you don't. So
and I'm seeing more and more of those workshops pop up for editors.
It's only going to get worse.
Chat GPT for your first pass. And I'm like, is your author consenting to have their manuscript fed into Chat GPT?
Right.
Do they know you're doing it?
Yeah.
Do they know that it's learning? It's learning from that, from that manuscript. Oh no.
Yeah, it's truly only going to get worse.
Yeah.
Oh no. That's why they need to hire Juicy Details romance editing right now.
You will never use AI to edit. Absolutely not.
Oh God, that's terrifying. I don't need that in my romance books, please.
Yeah, and I mean there are editors. Some of the editors who were previous editors for our current folks, like you can tell they just fed it into AI and sent it back without reading it. Didn't even read it.
But that would be so discouraging as an author to me.
Oh yeah.
That would break my heart that I paid for that. And, and then, sometimes, like you said, you don't know what you don't know. And so you don't ask those things.
Might not be obvious to the author that that's what's happened, but it's obvious to us that that's what happened. So ask.
Yes.
That is a huge thing for authors to know about, like going into editing services, and no matter who you choose.
Yes,
always ask
absolutely.
At every level. Yeah, 100%.
Well, ladies, we have talked so much about all these incredible editing services, about everything like metaphors and all these editing things that we now know. Where can listeners find your services, and how can they connect with you specifically on Instagram?
So our Instagram is at Juicy Details Editing. Our website is www.juicydetailsediting.com.
And from either of those, you can sign up for our newsletter that we send out approximately once a month. Yeah. We are not big newsletter people. We're not going to spam you, and there's always going to be useful and new content in there.
Absolutely. And, I think authors reach out to us via DM sometimes. They send us emails because our email is listed somewhere also. It's just hello@juicydetailsediting.com. Authors use our contact form on the website, so there's no wrong way.
No. Get in contact.
Yeah.
And we will do a sample edit for free. We'll do a free 15 to 30-minute chat to talk about your project before you ever book us.
Yep.
No obligations, totally free. Just seeing where you're at.
And if it's a good fit.
Yeah.
Thanks so much to Monica and Maria for joining the show. If you'd like to hear an extension of our chat, be sure to check out the bonus behind the scenes episode as well. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. That way, you're the first to hear new episodes when they drop. And if you get a chance, feel free to leave a review. It helps support the show and allows more opportunity to bring in all kinds of fantastic guests. There's also a link to the YouTube channel in the description if you'd like to see the interviews with some of the guests and see them show off their lovely books. As always, stay safe, be well, and keep writing. Bye!